Hi, Dr. Fari. Hi, everyone else. So I'm going to be going over my kind of experimental exercise. And so just to start, the exercise that I'm using is from chapter 10, and that's the chapter that talks about the participatory community arts engagement programs and how people can use that to kind of reprocess their trauma, move forward with their lives, and assess how they want to process their trauma on an individual basis. So I'm designing my own participatory community arts engagement program, specifically one that's going to teach Asian American history, teach Asian American food culture, and just get people more knowledgeable in general about Asian American food culture. So just the preface at the start, I was planning on doing this recording with someone else. So I would be demoing how I'm going to talk to them, make the drinks with them. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get anyone to help me record the video since it's finals week. Everyone's really busy. So I'm just going to do it by myself. It won't quite have this sort of same effect, but it'll kind of get the job done and show how it would go. So to start, the participatory and community arts engagement program, these are primarily done through communities and specifically for community members. It's a chance for community members to learn from each other, talk to each other, engage with each other, and at its most critical point, allows us to reprocess or even process for the first time trauma and allows us to better understand the community. So the specific community arts engagement program that I am making is a little boba shop. And specifically, this one is designed to not only teach people how to make the drinks and the backgrounds behind them, but also teach them to be more critical of the drinks themselves and how using these drinks can help give back to the community or to the culture. So to start, when someone were to walk into this boba shop, we would do the usual stuff you would do at any boba shop, any coffee shop. Greet them, ask them basic questions. The immediate question we probably ask them is this your first time here? Asking and getting sure if it's their first time here allows us to know, one, if it's your first time, then we have to go through a different process. But if it's not your first time, we can probably skip a lot of the introductory statements and information. So assuming that it is their first time, we would come in, seat them down, and we would give them a menu, and they would pair off individually with their groups with one or two or three baristas, depending on the size of the group. And so at that point, we would introduce the menu to them. So it's a little blurry here and you probably can't read it. So I'll include a link in the chat if anyone ever actually watches this, but it would include the drinks that we have. Some of the drinks will be just classic permanent throughout the menu, such as like a basic milk tea that'll kind of always be on the menu as kind of a starting point if people maybe don't feel quite comfortable expanding out into drinks they haven't heard of. However, there will also be multiple seasonal drinks on the menu. So right now it's approaching the summertime, it's spring. So a lot of the melons like watermelon, honeydew, and cantaloupe, they're starting to get into season. So one of the drinks on the menu, the third seasonal drink right now is the mixed summer melon tea. And so once we hand them the menu and they choose their drinks, then we would give them all the things that they can make the drinks themselves. And depending on the drink, it'll include things like the tea leaves, the hot water, obviously. If it's a milk tea, it'll include the type of milk they choose. It'll include the sugar they choose. And then we'll walk them through every bit of how to make that drink. And this is where kind of that community arts process comes into play. Because rather than just teaching how to make the drink, the menu also includes a fact sheet. So it's a little blurry, but includes a fact sheet based on the drink you get. So for example, if you order the classic milk tea, one of the facts that's on here is that milk tea originated actually as only a hot drink in Tibet, and it was made with goat milk rather than cow's milk. And depending on where you try this milk tea, for example, if you try it in India, it would have added spices where they would make masala tea. However, we also have some more interesting facts that maybe people didn't know. For example, according to Yelp, boba was the most popular delivery drink at the start of the pandemic. And I think one of the most basic boba facts that I found really interesting is that boba in Taiwan, where it originated, was seen as much of a privilege because it's something that was kind of a luxury. For those that lived in poverty, couldn't always just order boba to go. And so boba rose in popularity when Taiwan's economy started growing as well, a sign of privilege, a sign of growth for communities that could afford it. If you choose one of the more unique drinks, such as the honeydew soy milk tea, some of the facts are about the drink itself, but also about the ingredients in the drink itself. For example, one of the facts for the honeydew soy milk tea is that 2/3 of the global Asian population is lactose intolerant, hence why we're using soy milk for this drink rather than, say, cow's milk, for example. One of the other facts here is that melons like honeydew are highly prized in countries like Japan, where melons in like honeydews, for example, in Japan have sold for as much as $200 per melon. And the most recent one that sold as the most expensive melon in Japan, a singular melon, was sold for $20,000. It also includes ideas that we have for future drinks, such as a boba milk tea that has a shot of rum chata, new fusion drinks. And if you order some of these seasonal ones, such as the mixed summer melon tea, it'll have some facts about that as well. For example, many cultures like Chinese culture don't value desserts with a lot of highly added sugar and instead value fruit just by itself as a dessert. So a lot of the times when we have fruit tea, it's used as a way to pay homage to that, not adding a lot of sugar, keeping the natural flavor of the tea and the sugar. And I think one of the most interesting facts is that a lot of the fruit teas that originated in Taiwan, like pineapple jam fruit tea, originated during colonial history, where there was a Taiwanese woman named Yoshiko who was married to a farmer under Japanese colonial rule. She was worried that her husband, who was farming on pineapple farms, would get dehydrated and potentially have a heat stroke if he farmed too much. So she took some of the overripe pineapples that he farmed and turned it into a preserved jam and mixed it with water. And as a result, it was a way for him to stay hydrated. And many boba shops now pay homage to that. And so depending on the drinks, right, like for simplicity's purpose, we're just going to do a really short demo. But in the actual shop, you'd have like a bag of tea leaves, for example. You'll have the kettle, or you might have the little container, a cute container that you can take to go. Just for now, it'll be really simple. So if you order the classic milk tea, you'll just get tea and your choice of milk, and you have a milk tea. If you choose the honeydew soy milk tea, we'll give you the tea base that you want. And here's a honeydew soy milk. Add a little bit of that. You got a honeydew soy milk tea. And my personal favorite, you take a fresh watermelon juice, add it to the same green tea, and now you have a watermelon green tea. So it's a way for people to learn about the different drinks, the history behind them, and also just facts about it that they might not have understood. And then towards the end, we'll include also a list of facts to consider about the drinks and also just about general Asian culture holistically. For example, there are desserts that are similar to boba, like taho from the Philippines, that are similar but can't all be lumped into the boba category. They're made from different ingredients. So it's important to recognize that we should respect these desserts and their drinks, but not homogenize them as all as the same. We also have facts such as boba being overly villainized in the West. In fact, there was a myth going around a long time ago in the US where they thought boba led to cancer. As it turns out, it's not true. The supposed research that showed that was both falsified and also wasn't peer reviewed. And we also talk about how 15% of our profits are going to ethnic studies programs and other nonprofits, giving back to the community while also teaching it. So yeah, that's the general gist of it.